The skies of Terra burned crimson as the Red Angel descended upon the cradle of mankind. Even before his axe struck stone, terror swept the walls of the Imperial Palace like a plague. Every heartbeat pounded with dread, the ground trembled with the wrath of a demigod unchained, and across the ramparts, defenders whispered a single name with shaking breath. Not in defiance, but in fear. Angron had come, and he brought the nails, the blood, and the end. In today's video, we're going to talk about the assault on Terra by Angron because we got the leaks for the World Eater's Codex. So let's get into it. By the time the siege of Terra commenced, Angron had become fully enslaved to the will of the blood god Khorne and his own unquenched bloodlust. Angron had become a massive demonic beast. Any resemblance of grace or majesty was completely extinguished. Instead, the demon Primarch was the embodiment of rage and bloodlust. His gaze alone was enough to send entire regiments into panic. His butcher's nails were hidden amongst hundreds of protruding spikes and tumor-like mutations that sprouted from his cranium. His lips were pulled back to reveal a sinister, bloodthirsty grin that remained permanently fixed. His facial structure was distorted to the point where one couldn't even tell that he was once human. His pale and proud eyes became yellow and demonic as they sunk deep into his face. His augmetic wires that ran across his powerful armor dug themselves into his flesh as his body mutated and fused with his golden Baroque armor. A massive collar of Khorne sat on his neck, both as a protection from psychic powers and a reminder that his soul belonged to the god of blood. Angron had become the true embodiment of rage. He demanded that Horus allow him to directly assault the Imperial Palace, regardless of the fact that the Emperor's powerful psychic barrier around the throne world would more than likely kill the Demon Prince before he found a way to weaken it. When word reached Angron that it would be the Death Guard who would instead be the ones to spearhead the traitor assault on Terra, Angron fell into an incandescent rage and massacred all those within the bowels of the Conqueror who had the misfortune to cross the Demon Primarch's path. Lotaro Sarin, the mortal human captive of the Conqueror, feared that if Angron wasn't stopped, he would inadvertently murder the tech priest responsible for attending to the vessel's plasma reactor, putting the Conqueror at risk of a catastrophic explosion. To prevent this, Sarin conspired with the Night Lord's captain, Gendor, as well as Karn, to have Angron teleported to the shifting maze aboard the Night Lord's flagship, Nightfall, that had been used by Conrad Curse to torture and kill captives. Forcing Karn's hand, the 8th captain confronted the enraged demon Primarch himself. Angron informed his equerry that the Dark Gods had whispered to him of Karn's ultimate fate and preordained destiny as the chosen of Khorne. The demon Primarch wished to supplant Karn as the Blood God's chosen, and so the two battled one another. However, Karn proved unable to match his Genesire's prowess. Before Angron could slay him, Karn placed a teleporter homer on the demon Primarch and had him teleported off the Conqueror and into the bowels of the Nightfall. In the bowels of the Night Lord's flagship, Angron found himself trapped within a labyrinth of singular purpose. At the request of the Night Haunter, the Iron Warrior's Primarch Perturabo had crafted his brother a singular prison, unlike any other, in imitation of Perturabo's own private sanctorum. This special prison was an elaborate labyrinth, whose featureless walls and strange geometric designs made it all but impossible to map and therefore escape. Anyone who attempted to mentally map the labyrinth would be hopelessly knotted in turns that should have been physically impossible. Even after trying scores of times to map the labyrinth, an individual would only manage more than a handful of turns within its twisting corridors before all stopped making sense. Following the dropsite massacre of Isfahan V, the Night Haunter had captured his brother Vulcan, the Primarch of the Salamanders, and utilized the labyrinth as a means to torture and psychologically break him over a period of several solar months. Angron quickly became trapped within the maze, forever trying to find his way out of the twists and turns, and battling assaults by a multitude of traps hidden within the labyrinth. Meanwhile, the traitors on Terra's surface had used a series of rituals to finally weaken the Emperor's psychic barrier around the throne world so that they could deploy their demonic allies onto its surface. The demon Primarch was finally shot from the hold of the Nightfall and into the void of space. Angron soon hurled towards the throne world surface. When the demon Primarch entered Terra's atmosphere, he appeared as a massive flaming meteor. As his body slammed into the surface of Terra, the shockwave of the demon Primarch's impact slew friend and foe alike. Wielding the Black Blade, Angron proceeded to rampage through the Loyalist forces, fighting his way to the walls of the Imperial Palace itself. Here he saw his brother, Sanguinius, the angelic primarch of the Blood Angels, and bellowed a challenge. In response, Sanguinius merely saluted his brother and refused. Before withdrawing back into the confines of the imperial palace, Sanguinius claimed that while one day they would battle, it would not be today. The demon primarch roared in frustration, unable to circumvent the lingering effects of the Emperor's psychic barrier to pursue what he perceived as his cowardly brother into the palace. As the siege of Terra raged on, during the Battle of the Lion Gate spaceport, Angron destroyed both the Capital Imperialis Super Heavy Imperial tank and then the Leviathan transport, but was still unable to advance past the Imperial Palace's walls. But eventually, the Lion's Gate spaceport fell to the traitors when they launched a massive assault. As the Emperor's psychic barrier shrank to encompass the Sanctum Imperialis, Angron led a horde of blood-maddened World Eaters onto the Eternity Wall and began slaughtering the Loyalist defenders. Newly blessed with his demonic gifts, Angron and his World Eaters overtook the Loyalist defenders of the Eternity Wall. Later, the World Eaters had the duty and privilege of leading the frontal assault on the palace. The surviving video logs from that siege show the World Eaters breaching the walls of the palace, the twisted red form of Angron wielding his glowing rune sword at his head. Among those first into the breach was Karn. Despite contrary claims of the Sons of Horus, World Eater records indicate that it was Angron's demonic black blade that was responsible for the downfall of the Great Gate of the Imperial Palace. The World Eaters reaped a true harvest of blood on Terra, but they were denied ultimate victory. The rest, as they say, was history. The mighty Chaos armies disintegrated with the loss of their greatest champion and fled from Terra. Angron was the last to leave, looking back from his dropship, longing for the Imperial Palace, which had stood against even his fury. He led his surviving World Eaters deep into the refuge of the Great Warp Rift that was the Eye of Terror. He and his heretical Astartes would now have an eternity to seek revenge as part of the long war against the Corpse Emperor. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more World Eaters, thank our patrons on Patreon. Because of them, we were able to create an entire playlist. Link at the end of this video. Don't forget to hit the like button, share, and support the other channels, the Greater Wogs, and everything else. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.
Put my freedom first in any situation. I knew I never had that much to lose. I always used to put my freedom first in any situation.